Main event of the evening.
These days are
Hello and welcome to These Days Are Ours, a Happy Days podcast. I'm Peter.
And I'm Joe.
And today, we will be discussing Season 6, Episode 26, Chachi's Incredo-Wax.
Okay, Peter, tell us what happens in Chachi's Incredo-Wax.
We open at Bronco's garage, where Chachi is trying to make a date with a girl named Judy on the phone.
Hey, listen, I can't afford to take you to the movies, but, how about if I come over? Hello?
She hangs up on him. Richie shows up looking for Fonzie, who is out to lunch. With Ralph away at his family reunion, Richie needs to find a new piano player. Chachi offers to do it for $5.
I didn't know you played.
He doesn't play, but he can use $3 of the bucks for piano lessons. Fonzie shows up with a girl named Leilani, who works at the Pineapple Hut and only communicates through hula. They make a date.
Saturday night, Pineapple Hut, 8 o'clock. All right, 7:30.
And then Leilani leaves. Richie asks for Fonzie's help finding a new piano player. Fonzie knows a piano teacher, but on the day Richie's band plays, she'll be busy with Fonzie.
Saturday night, she's giving me a lesson in my key.
Richie leaves, having a sudden craving for pineapple. Chachi asks Fonzie for a raise so he can take Judy to the movies. Fonzie refuses, instead telling Chachi that America is the land of opportunity. In the words of Grandma Nussbaum, a penny earned is a sailor's delight.
I never did understand Grandma Nussbaum.
At Arnold's, Richie and Potsy are still trying to find a piano player as Al drops heavy hints that he would like to do it.
Oh, I'm fine. I always warm up like this before I do my piano exercises.
Luckily, Lori Beth has basic observational skills and says Al can do it. Chachi arrives with a box and calls for everyone's attention.
Let me introduce you to the most amazing miracle product you will ever see.
He's got a miracle product called Incredo-Wax and a free demonstration, successfully cleaning a table until it's so pristine you could eat off it. The astonished crowd begin buying as much as they can.
This is madness. He's just peddling a bunch of easy answers.
And how?
The next day at the Cunningham house, Howard comes downstairs from tending to his sick Joni, extremely on edge because of tonight's bridge game with the Andersons.
To the untrained eye, I may seem to be nervous, but I'm really all psyched up, Mary, and I've got my brain on go.
Richie and Lori Beth waxed Howard's card table using wax they bought from Chachi.
Wait a minute, is this our old card table?
Yep, we polished the chairs too.
They're about to leave for Arnold's, but Howard makes them stay so he and Marion can practice their bridge signals for tonight's game. Not cheating. Definitely not cheating. The Andersons are the ones who cheat, and Howard is just fighting fire with fire. Richie and Lori Beth get a little bit too into their roles as the Andersons, to Howard's consternation.
Oh, your house looks so lovely, darling, and I just love those drapes.
We're really gonna skin you tonight, Howie.
And then when they actually try to play, they find that the cards have become stuck to the table, and the chairs, which were also polished with Chachi's wax, have become stuck to them. The next day at Arnold's, the table Chachi waxed is now a smoking mess, much to Al's dismay.
Chachi!
Lori Beth, who waxed her new saddle shoes, have then become twisted messes. Richie's bowling ball is now oblong, and Potsy's hair, which he apparently thought was a good idea to put wax on, is now a mess.
You put it on your hair.
When Chachi shows up, a girl on each arm, he has to run out of Arnold's to escape the angry foursome. At the garage, Fonzie is waxing his motorcycle seat when an irate Richie arrives, looking for Chachi.
Just wait till I get my hands on him. I mean, Fonz, I'm telling you, just wait till I get my hands on him.
As Fonzie begins tuning up his engine and Richie complains, the wax seat begins expanding like a balloon. Upon seeing this, Fonzie vows to fight Chachi, then forlornly pops his seat.
This is gonna hurt me more than it hurts you.
The next day at Arnold's, the band, now with Al on piano, is playing. The table that Chachi ruined has been removed, leaving the people sitting there with their food in their laps, and Potsy is wearing a cowboy hat to hide his hair. The band finishes playing.
I don't want you to get hurt, Al, but you hit a few clinkers in that one.
Oh, Rich. Well, I was worried about Chachi.
I know.
And Fonzie shows up. He's managed to lure Chachi here with the help of Leilani, and he takes Chachi and Richie into his office to talk. Fonzie and Chachi argue over Chachi doing what Fonzie told him to earn extra money, and inadvertently causing chaos in the process.
You were the one who told me to go out and earn some extra money,
Well,
right?
stand up and talk. Richie, please.
It ends with Chachi admitting that everyone hates him, and he needs Fonzie's help. Fonzie, no longer angry, asks where Chachi got the wax. He got it from a shady guy named Beckett who promised him big money.
And then he dumps this wax to these favorite things on you, huh?
Fonzie, recognizing this as a con game, Beckett sells bad wax, takes the money and runs, and leaves the salesman to take everyone's ire, takes Richie aside to tell him how they're going to calm the con man.
This conner is going to become our connie, huh?
That night, Fonzie and Richie await the arrival of Beckett at the garage. Once he's within earshot, they loudly discuss their plan to get the wax and use it to make $500,000.
What about that Sharpie, Mr. Beckett?
Oh, Beckett's a boob. He won't know anything.
The boob knows.
Beckett hears them, of course, and asks about the scam. Richie claims that they bought the wax from some kid and mixed it with some other ingredients, and it changed.
Well, what did it change to?
Well, show him. Show him, Red.
Yeah, show me. Come on, I want to see this.
All right.
To demonstrate, Richie hits Fonzie in the stomach with a crowbar, which bends from the impact and doesn't affect Fonzie at all. The wax made Fonzie's jacket hard as steel. Beckett wants in on the scam and insists on half instead of the third he's offered.
I want half.
Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
After a hushed conversation, Richie and Fonzie agree and await the arrival of their foreign investor. Said investor is Al, carrying a briefcase and wearing a bad shake costume.
May your camel always stand upwind.
He insists on a demonstration before paying, so Beckett sprays the wax on a nearby car covered by a sheet, saying he'll make it dent-proof. He hits it with a sledgehammer, and only succeeds in damaging the car. Fonzie and Richie pull off the sheet to reveal two cops, there to arrest Beckett. Fonzie pulls the hubcap that he had hidden in his jacket out, then twists the crowbar around Beckett's wrists before the cops take him away. The next day at the garage, Chachi is telling Fonzie about the deal he worked out with Al to work as a busboy to pay for the damaged table.
I worked for 7 weeks as a busboy, and that pays for the whole table.
Then he, somewhat awkwardly, but sincerely, thanks Fonzie for helping him. Richie shows up, and Fonzie admits Chachi reminds him of a younger him.
He is just like you.
Scares me to death.
Then Chachi and Judy leave for a luau, after Judy shows him how she can wiggle her hips.
Thank you, Peter. That was Chachi's Incredo-Wax. It first aired back on May 8th, 1979. This was the first new episode in nearly 2 months. Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley had been in reruns since mid-March. On this night, however, they were both new. On Laverne and Shirley, Laverne suspects there is a corporate spy at Schott's Brewery.
I'm now going to steal 2 more samples of the experimental beer for further testing.
NBC had another installment of Greatest Heroes of the Bible. This week it was The 10 Commandments, featuring John Marley as Moses, Richard Mulligan as Aaron, and our very own Anson Williams as Nabar.
We'll follow no further.
But we're at their heels. We need only reach out for them.
We'd only be sacrificing more lives.
But we're warriors.
CBS reran the pilot for The Paper Chase, in which law student James Hart shows up unprepared for his first day of Professor Kingsfield's class. By the way, cliffhangers had already been canceled by NBC by the time Happy Days came back.
Boo.
So, Peter, of those 3 choices, what are you watching?
I admit that I'm curious about the Bible show. I'd be interested in seeing how they handle the assorted white people as Middle Easterners. Probably not very well, I'm guessing.
Well, one of those actors is John Marley, who was the guy with a horse head in his bed from The Godfather. And it is very surreal to see him as Moses.
Their arms and numbers are far greater than ours. Even now the Amalekites ready to sweep over Israel and bury us.
And obviously, we'll all want to see Anson Williams as Nabar.
Of course.
Chachi's Incredo-Wax was directed by Jerry Paris and was written by the team of Anthony DeMarco and David Ketchum. This same team had previously written Fonzie for the Defense, The Physical, and Time Capsule. As for guest stars this week, let's start with Al Alou as Beckett. Al was an actor from Pittsburgh who worked in theater, TV, and film in the 70s and 80s. Gary Marshall also used him on Who's Watching the Kids. Al's movies include Sid and Nancy and Candy Stripe Nurses.
Keep abreast of the medical world with the Candy Stripe Nurses.
On TV, he appeared on Fame, Punky Brewster, and Days of Our Lives. He retired from acting in the 90s and started teaching at the City of Los Angeles Museum of Art. He died in 2014. So, Peter, what did you think of Al Alou as Beckett?
He only appears in one scene, but I think he did a great job at projecting sliminess. I think he's very believable in his role as a con man who takes advantage of desperate kids. So he does a very good job with that. Also, I love his terrible mustache.
I would say that Al Alou makes a very imposing and threatening gangster. We've had a lot of gangsters this season on Happy Days for some reason.
Yeah.
Beckett seems to be the most no-nonsense of that group. I thought Al Alou was very effective in this episode. We also have Diana Markworth as Leilani. This was Diana's only acting credit, but she was a professional dancer who appeared with her own Polynesian dance troupe in the 1970s. What did you think of Diana Markworth as Leilani?
I found this episode's handling of Hawaiian culture to be somewhat uncomfortable. It feels like they're kind of treating hula with a degree of sexualization that I don't really like. It's a common thing that white people do with Hawaiian culture. The fact that it's basically a running gag in this episode made me uncomfortable.
I think this is the most extreme example of one of Fonzie's girlfriends not being able to speak.
The reason why they do that is because if they don't have any lines, then they don't have to pay them as much. It's kind of uncomfortable in this case.
At least Diana Markworth actually got a screen credit, which some of Fonzie's girlfriends don't actually get.
To be clear, Markworth is fine in this episode, and she's a very talented dancer. I blame the writers, not her.
As for songs this week, at Arnold's we hear a couple of songs by the Coasters, Yakety Yak and Poison Ivy. Both are cut from the syndicated version. Fonzie sings a little ditty about looking sweet
On my bicycle seat, built for one.
He seems to be parodying the 1892 song Daisy Bell, Bicycle Built for Two by British songwriter Henry Dacre. Anson Williams sings Take Good Care of My Baby.
Take good care of my baby.
This is a song written by Carole King and Gary Goffin, and it was a big hit for Bobby Vee in 1961.
Take good care of my baby.
Any feelings about Anson's version of Take Good Care of My Baby?
It's perfectly fine.
I will take that. I would say Anson does an admirable job with it. And when Beckett is arrested, we hear the Dragnet theme by Walter Schumann. And this is not cut from the syndicated version. They actually left it in.
Hooray!
As for cultural and historical references, a running gag throughout this episode, obviously, is that Leilani communicates solely through dance. Hula is a traditional dance developed centuries ago in the Hawaiian Islands by Polynesian settlers. In conjunction with music and chanting, it can be used to tell stories, and there are certain moves that communicate words or phrases, including love, ocean waves, rising sun, and flower. Obviously, it's not used in real life the way it is here to communicate time of day or plans for dates and things like that. At Bronco's Auto Repairing, we see a vintage poster that reads, "Give to your American Cancer Society." This seems to date from about 1966. I found pictures of celebrities like Perry Como, Louis Armstrong, Mitzi Gaynor, and Harry Belafonte all holding that same poster. Happy Days is really trying to turn Grandma Nussbaum's mangled sayings into a recurring element of the show. This week we get,
"A penny earned is a sailor's delight."
This seems to be combining two famous phrases. "A penny saved is a penny earned" is a slogan often attributed to Benjamin Franklin.
After all, a penny saved is a penny earned.
And he who hesitates is lost.
And a stitch in time saves 9.
And never eat spinach with a stranger.
He didn't actually say that, though. In his annual Poor Richard's Almanac, he does include a couple of similar phrases. He said, "A penny saved is 2 pence clear" in 1737, and "a penny saved is a penny got" in 1758. As for the sailor's delight part, it comes from a rhyme often repeated by mariners. Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. This rhyme is actually most accurate at the Earth's middle latitudes. Peter, any particular feelings about the Grandma Nussbaum's sayings joke?
I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite running gags, but it's mildly amusing.
Very amusing.
The one piano player that Potsy can name is Liberace.
We gotta play tonight, so let's just try to think of a piano player.
Liberace.
Liberace's own TV show ended in 1959, but he was still a popular guest on The Tonight Show, The Ed Sullivan Show, What's My Line, and many more.
Also, he appeared in a couple of early music videos called Soundies. One of them, where he does the Tiger Rag, is very funny because he's playing it while two women lean against his piano.
I'd like to play a double-time rhythm arrangement of the old-timer, the Tiger Rag.
And whenever it cuts away from him to one of the women, she just looks so bored and uncomfortable, like she doesn't know what she's supposed to be doing. She just has to stand there and she hates it. It's so funny.
Richie makes multiple references to a show called Beat the Clock. This was a game show hosted by Bud Collyer from 1950 to 1958.
Time for fun is now begun. Let's all play Beat the Clock.
It's been revived numerous times since then, most recently in 2018. Contestants are asked to complete silly and contrived challenges within a strict time limit.
No, I saw a guy on Beat the Clock the other day, and he couldn't open a card table. Of course, he was wearing boxing gloves and a blindfold.
Opening a card table while blindfolded and wearing boxing gloves would be typical of Beat the Clock. Marion says that the table looks like real Formica.
Well, it's just beautiful. It looks just like real Formica.
The joke here is that Formica is artificial. It was created by Westinghouse in 1912 as a substitute for mica, which is a naturally occurring mineral.
Because every time someone orders granite countertops, a piece of granite mountain gets chipped off.
Formica forever.
The sign on Fonzie's office door reads March of Dimes to protect the unborn and the newborn. This was the slogan of the March of Dimes in 1977 and 1978. It was a part of their campaign to eradicate birth defects. Mark Hamill was their spokesman at the time.
I'm Mark Hamill asking you to protect the unborn and the newborn.
And you can find commercials in which Mark Hamill, fresh from Star Wars, is telling pregnant women not to drink, smoke, and do drugs.
If Luke Skywalker told me not to smoke or drink when I was pregnant, I'd listen to him.
Other observations. I wonder where Donnie Most and Aaron Moran were this week. I guess they were busy filming something else.
Or maybe Aaron Moran actually was sick.
Aaron will be in a competing program that's running against Happy Days next week. So that's a little preview. Chachi's Incredo-Wax strongly resembles other sitcom episodes about kids conned into selling worthless products to raise money. On Leave It to Beaver, for instance, there's an episode about Wally and Beaver selling terrible smelling perfume to buy a movie projector. And the final episode of The Brady Bunch was about Bobby selling hair tonic that turns Greg's hair orange.
Tomorrow's graduation and I got orange hair.
In the movie Life with Father, one of the kids in the Day family sells patent medicine that poisons a neighbor's dog.
Oh, God.
There are a lot of stories like this in popular culture. This seems like Happy Days' take on it.
I guess we should just be happy that nobody tried to wax their dog.
If they'd gotten anywhere near Spunky with that Incredo-Wax, the results could have been tragic. There are actually a couple of black customers at Arnold's this week. And by the end of Happy Days, there will be some black regulars at Arnold's.
Progress.
Yeah, so that's something that slowly changes over the course of the series. When Chachi destroys Richie's usual table at Arnold's, that's foreshadowing to him destroying the whole place a season later. And when Arnold's burns down, remember that it's the replacement table that burns with it. Their special table, that's gone.
Oh my God.
That was destroyed this week.
Chachi destroys everything. It's just a matter of time.
Another running joke this season is Howard's terrible luck at card games, board games, and all sports. It seems like whenever the writers were out of ideas for Howard and Marion, they just have them lose at bridge to some other couple. I think that's becoming a bit of a crutch for the writers.
Kinda, yeah.
It just seems like they're going to that well a little too often for my taste. Watch when Howard deals the cards. One of the cards he gives Richie slides right off the table and onto the floor. Nobody notices, and it remains on the floor for the rest of the scene. I could not stop paying attention to it.
I guess it didn't get any wax on it. It's a shame that the writers won't just let Howard and Marion's marriage be functional, because when they're functional, they're adorable. It's annoying when writers' only vision for how a long-running marriage can be is constant arguing.
What exactly does Incredo-Wax do? Does it make things sticky? Does it dissolve them? Does it melt them? Or does it make them expand?
It does all of it. Maybe Beckett gave Chachi a bunch of different things of wax, and they're all different random assortments of stuff. Maybe it's lucky that Chachi didn't put the expanding wax on the table. It would have been funnier if it had been consistent, I think.
That's one of the notes I would have given the writers. Whatever the Incredo-Wax does, it should do it to everything.
Imagine Fonzie not being able to get off his bike.
That would be really funny.
I'm gonna stick like glue. Stick because I'm stuck on you.
But if you use Incredo-Wax on your hair, that's on you.
Potsy has no one to blame for himself. Like even if the wax hadn't been bad, that cannot have ended well.
Obviously, recently we had the amazing Gorilla Glue story.
My hair, it don't move.
And it was much more painful in real life than it was in this episode. All Potsy had to do was wear a hat and get some hat hair, and I think she had to go to the emergency room.
Tessica tried washing it out with oils and shampoo and even went to the emergency room, but nothing worked until Beverly Hills plastic surgeon Michael Obang offered to help.
Chachi is busy this week, so Daphne is briefly brought back as the band's drummer. She shows absolutely no enthusiasm for it, though. If you watch Hillary Horan in the back, she just looks completely bored. She's barely moving the drumsticks at all.
She's having much less fun than Al in that scene.
Al is having a blast. And I would like to say to Richie, I didn't hear any particular clinkers that Al was playing during that scene. It sounded pretty good to me. Take Good Care of My Baby has a prominent piano solo, and he plays that all right. So, Peter, were there any memorable Happy Days fashions this week?
It's a good thing that Al Alou is able to make Beckett halfway believable because his outfit does not do him any favors. He's wearing a mismatched suit consisting of gray pants and a pink sports jacket and, of course, a fedora, which any self-respecting gangster needs. It's not a great outfit, but it's a good thing Al Alou made it work, because otherwise that could have been a disaster. I'd also like to give a shout out to Potsy's big gray cowboy hat that he is wearing when his hair is recovering from the wax.
He actually looked pretty good with the cowboy hat, and it kind of turns Take Good Care of My Baby into a country number.
Yeah, it kind of works.
As for Al Alou, I had a theory.
Well, this theory that I have, that is to say, which is mine, is mine.
And my theory was that in the Paramount costume department, there is a rack of clothes called gangster suits. And they just grabbed a pair of pants and a jacket off of that, anything that they thought would fit the actor, and just threw it on him because he doesn't match and he doesn't look coordinated. He certainly doesn't look stylish. So, Peter, I will ask that age-old timeless question. Was this episode any good?
I wish it had been less racist. Besides the questionable depiction of Hawaiian culture, we've also got Al pretending to be a sheikh for Richie and Fonzie's scheme. It kind of gave me flashbacks to the episode of Blansky's Beauties that we watched with the white actor playing the evil Arab sheikh stereotype. And I don't think it's quite as bad as that because it's a white guy playing a white guy pretending to be a sheikh, but it's still pretty bad. There's a part where Al calls Beckett infidel.
Who is this infidel?
And he keeps talking about camels, and it's just really, really uncomfortable. Aside from that, it is a pretty fun episode. Not a spectacular one, but not as annoying as it could have been, seeing as it's Chachi focused.
That is what I would say about Chachi's Incredo-Wax. Obviously, the climax with Al coming into the garage is a little cringy in 2021. The best I can say about this episode is that for a Chachi-centric episode, it is relatively painless. The effect that the Incredo-Wax has on various surfaces and products is kind of fun. I think this is about as good a use of Chachi as you're going to get. This is one that I say that people could probably easily skip, but it's not as bad as I was fearing it might be. And I think part of that was just that this is such a classic sitcom story. The kid who's conned into selling worthless stuff to his friends and neighbors, and then everybody gets mad at him. It's a story that's been done on a lot of sitcoms before. It's kind of a no-fail story. There's not really a way that this could go too wrong, but I could definitely have lived without Chachi's Incredo-Wax. So, Peter, how can people keep up with us and find out about all the wonderful things that we are doing?
Listeners can follow us on Twitter at Fonzie Podcast. They can follow me on Twitter at Peter Wolfranc. That's PeterVulfranc.
And they can follow me on Twitter at Joe_A_Blevins. They can find this podcast online at thesedaysaroours.libsyn.com. And they can email us with questions, comments, and concerns at thesedaysaroourspodcast@gmail.com. And you know who did just that this week, Peter?
Fred Fox Jr.
Oh, baby! Oh, I can't stand you anymore. It's a classic love song.
That's right. Fred of Freddie and the Red Hots himself actually used that email address to send us some very kind words, and we were thrilled to get them. So, Peter, what do we have on the docket for next week?
Next week, it's the season 6 finale, where Potsy has trouble in his human anatomy class. In Potsy Quits School.
Sounds very, very dramatic. I'm already excited for it. So, see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Star wax, wax. Star wax, wax. Always remember, sa paglinis, pakitawin ang sahig. Mrs. Star wax, wax. Kitang na to the max.
Star Wax, ang #1 floor wax. May waterproof formula. Buhusan man ang tubig, balikin tabang sahig.
Star wax, wax. Kitang na to the max, max, max.
Star Wax floor wax.
You put it on your hair.